The next call is a split call. Denise Roach, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise to take a short call for the Greens. As my colleague Jan Logie said earlier, the Greens will be opposing this bill. We have some very grave concerns about it. And they are basically outlined in the report that came back from the committee, but I want to touch on a few of them, and also basically quote from some of the submissions that were made to the committee, who highlighted some really pertinent points that I think that this House should be considering, particularly when we come to the Committee of the Whole House. So one of our concerns is that essentially this issue is not about the welfare of young people. It is about getting them off and out of the welfare system. It's not about ensuring that they have positive outcomes and the ability to be able to move from very low paid and poverty kind of existence through to a much better paid existence through tertiary education. That's not part of the deal. What is part of the focus here is getting these young people into jobs, low-paid jobs, because the only type of education that they will be aspiring to is the NCEA Level 2. And that, sir, is not an aspirational way to approach the future of our young people. So we support wraparound services for vulnerable young people. We absolutely do support that, but we have serious doubts that this is the way to go about it. We're worried that the youth service, as it's been outlined in this bill and as it's been playing out since it was introduced, is really around the privatisation of core services from the government and is actually counterproductive to young people. And I take on board the comments that were made by Kay Brereton from the National Beneficiary Advocacy and Consultation Group, and they had a very coherent submission which basically said, and I want to quote from it, she said, "This service does not provide wraparound support and guidance, but contracted out case management, where youth providers are given the power to recommend sanctions to enforce the obligations imposed by work and income. Youth are not able to form trusting, supportive relationships where they can discuss their fears and failures, as their mentor is their case manager and might sanction them for their mistakes." And Sarah, I think that's an absolutely crucial point that we should be taking on board. How do you empower a young person to change their lives when they're afraid to talk to the person who's supposed to be helping them because they have the potential to sanction them, to make them poorer and take them further down from where they are at the moment? And I think further on in that submission, Kay Brereton points to international research which shows that in this type of situation where it's played out in overseas countries, the case managers cease to be mentors and become enforcers, teaching the rules to the unwilling. And that, sir, is what we are concerned about. So we share the concerns from the Privacy Commissioner as well, who believes that young people should be informed about their risk rating. And what it says in this bill is essentially that young people can correct mistakes in information, but they will not be able to actually appeal. And that, sir, I think, is a breach of human rights. We're concerned that the risk criteria captures Māori above every other type of person. My colleague Jan Logie outlined the bias that exists within government departments, which is, basically racist. And we don't want to see that continue either. Well, we support a strengths-based approach, and this is not it. This is actually a model that will undermine the autonomy of young people, and that is not what we want to see our government supporting, and we will be opposing this.
I call up